Welcome to the Domain Name Wire podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Alleman, and this is episode number 571. Earlier this month, the Internet Commerce Association held its annual meeting in Las Vegas. This year's event moved from Resorts World to the Park MGM. While the hotel isn't as fancy as Resorts World, it was a big improvement for the event. The location on the Strip is better, the entire hotel is non-smoking, and the size of the venue was more conducive to networking. It was a much better size for the relatively small event. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The ICA meeting is hands down the best domain conference to attend. There were about 200 people this year, and I think that's a great size. You can find time to chat with just about everyone. It's not overwhelming like some events. As I frequently do at domain events, I walked around with a recorder to get people on the record about what was on their minds. During the second segment of today's show, you'll hear from people talking about the domain market, people giving their thoughts on the meeting itself, or discussing new product features. Also at this year's conference, I sold a few domains that are part of the Domain Academy Challenge. I approached people with a list of domains that I bought as part of the challenge and sold them. If you're interested in buying any names at wholesale prices, drop me a line. That's andrew@domainnamewire.com. All right, now let's hear from our sponsor. Our sponsor this week is salve.com and its low prices on domain transfers. Transfer your domains to Salve and save. .com transfers are currently $9.65, org for $10.52, and .net just $12.12. Plus, Salve doesn't raise your prices a lot upon renewal. Start transferring your domains to Salve and saving money. Go to salve.com/DNW/transfer. That's SAV.com/DNW/transfer. All right, now let's talk about some of the news in the domain business from the past week. It was actually a pretty big news week. Team Internet Group said it's still in discussions to sell the domain registrar and registry side of its business, and it believes these assets will fetch more than the company's current market cap of about £125 million sterling. It also said its full 2025 results won't be as bad as some analysts expect. On the legal front, there were two very different outcomes in two cybersquatting lawsuits. Both of the lawsuits were filed in rem, meaning they were filed against the domains themselves and not the registrant. In the case of freebird.com, a boot company successfully obtained the domain after the domain owner didn't respond to the suit. It's unknown whether or not the domain owner knew about the lawsuit. In another case, the heavy metal band Slipknot dismissed a lawsuit it filed against slipknot.com. That case was also filed in rem, but the domain owner found out about the lawsuit and showed up in court to defend the domain name. Well, with the end of AdSense for domains, GoDaddy has switched its cache parking program over to a combination of Google's related search for content, or RSOC, and Yahoo ad feeds. GoDaddy has also been doing this on the coming soon pages for domains registered by GoDaddy customers, and this is a bit controversial. Showing ad links on coming soon pages has always been controversial, but it's a long-running practice. The issue with how they are using RSOC on these pages is that they are forwarding the coming soon domain to a page on searchhounds.com that has the required content necessary to show RSOC ads. The URL at the top of the page, in other words, is not the domain you typed in. Now, there's a way they could show RSOC ads without these forwards. They could add topic links on the coming soon page, and then when people clicked on this, it would lead to a page on Searchhounds, but this is not how they're currently doing it. Speaking of GoDaddy, GoDaddy Auctions has added a new Hidden Gems feature on its domain auctions. We all use traditional metrics such as domain age and number of extensions a domain is registered in to find expired domains. Hidden Gems takes data none of us have access to, which is whether the domain has been searched for by a GoDaddy customer in the past year, and surfaces these domains. I caution people to be careful here, as some of the searches were clearly typos, but it's another way to find expiring domains worth buying. Looking ahead to domain conferences later this year, NamesCon has set November 11th and 12th as the dates for its event in Miami. Disappointingly, the event is returning to Ice Palace, a venue that was widely panned by attendees last year, but organizers say they will make improvements to the venue. NamesCon will also be about a week later in the calendar than the 2025 event, which is a good thing. It will give a little bit more separation from the Domain Days conference in Dubai and the ICANN meeting in Oman. All right, now let's hear from people at the Internet Commerce Association meeting in Las Vegas this month. I'm with domain investor Ari Goldberger. So Ari, tell me, what are you thinking these days with domains, or what are you seeing in the market?
Well, I'm thinking about AI, first of all. And a lot of people are thinking about, are .com domains still going to be a big deal with AI? Because, you just go to AI and say, I want to get to this place, get to this particular site or find this thing. Do you really still need a domain name? And I think just the opposite. Because of AI, it's enabling entrepreneurs to open up all kinds of new businesses, and they need domain names, and they need really good domain names. We've had a lot of inquiries over the past several months, and I think that uptick has something to do with AI. The idea of valuation always comes up, and how do you value a name? And we have a lot of names that are just generic words like woman.com, children.com. And then we have other names that are more brandable in a sense. Well, not more brandable, but a different type of brand, a name that can stand on its own without saying .com, such as avalanche.com or click.com, CLIQUE. So there's a distinction, a word like woman.com, where you kind of capture an entire, in that sense, a whole industry perhaps, or snack.com. But those are names that I consider generic .coms, because you have to say .com after it. They're still awesome, but they're a name that's married to the .com. While on the other hand, a name like avalanche.com, a word that isn't utilized in everyday expression other than referring to when an avalanche occurs. So you can call your company Avalanche or Sorcerer or Romulus. All names that we have in the .com area, ultra premium, but they're a word that everyone knows, but that's hardly ever used. And that's how it can stand on its own. Like Yahoo.com. Everybody knew the word Yahoo, but people rarely say it. They might type it, but Yahoo is something that can stand on its own. I'm standing here at the ICA conference, and I'm looking at shares branded GoDaddy. It's another example. If it was daddy.com, you may not be able to call the business daddy, but GoDaddy can stand on its own. You don't have to call it GoDaddy.com. And that says a lot about .com, because GoDaddy is GoDaddy.com. That's its address, but it doesn't have to say the .com. And if their domain name was, say, GoDaddy.club or something like that, they would have to add that. So there's a lot of strength in these names that can stand on their own, where you don't need to put a .com, where people will assume that it's the .com, as well as the names that are really strong and, the generic .com brands.
Yeah, I mean, so if I think of woman.com, fantastic domain name, but you're saying I couldn't go to a conference and say, yeah, I'm with woman.
Exactly. There's few names that I can think of that work that way. Some descriptive, like maybe Best Buy, but I can't think of any brands. I used to work at mail.com, and we used to call ourselves Mail, but you wouldn't really be able to advertise that, on the radio. You don't want to say mail.com. So internally, we might refer to it that way. I was also involved in a company called MD.com, and, we couldn't really call ourselves MD. So there's a lot of strength when you don't have to use that .com. You just own that whole word. And that's one of the beauties, by the way, of domain names. I'm also a domain name lawyer and intellectual property lawyer. And the thing that existed before domain names were trademarks. That's how you could kind of own, a brand. What's interesting is you can't own a generic word. You could never have the exclusive right to woman or snack. You can't, because it's generic. Under trademark law, the principles are that you can't deny another seller from using the word to describe its product. Eggs.com, for example. Or like eggs, I mean. On the other hand, domain names are just the opposite. Not only can you have ownership of kind of an intellectual property of a name in the .com space, but nobody else can have it. So there's only one woman.com, whereas there's probably, 1,000 trademarks that have the word woman in it. As I've always said, .com is king, and I love domains.
Awesome. Thanks, Ari.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Ron Jackson is the publisher of DN Journal. Ron, what do you think of this year's Internet Commerce Association meeting?
Well, I really enjoyed it, Andrew. We're in a different venue this year than we were last year. It's the Park MGM, a little bit further south on the strip, close to the old Tropicana that's been torn down, where we came so many years for the NamesCon conferences. And so I'm enjoying the new venue. One thing that's been great about it is you come down the elevator and you're right on the show floor. I was at Resorts World before. It was a pretty good hike getting to the rooms and back now. So it keeps everyone a little bit in more of a compact area. I've enjoyed talking to a lot of newcomers to the industry, and that's always exciting to know that there are fresh people coming in, fresh ideas, and the excitement that they feel. And it occurred to me, and one gentleman was telling his first conference he had ever been to and how much fun he was having, that the ICA meeting, and to me, what separates it from some of the others, they all have a social element to them, but for the ICA, they've kind of elevated that to be the main theme. So almost everything they do is geared around more social opportunities. Even the first day is based almost nothing but social activities. So a guy like that comes in and he's a little uncomfortable like I was when I started. You don't know anyone, but everyone is so friendly and you're thrown in these situations where you're doing things together. And he just found it the greatest atmosphere, felt so welcomed here, which, and that always throws people too, will I be welcomed, or are they going to look at me as like, what do I know? But they find that one thing I've always just loved about the business in general is they are so welcoming to newcomers. And so if you've never been to a conference, ICA is a great place to start. You'll start making friendships and connections immediately that will help you in everything that you do in the industry.
All right. Thanks, Ron.
Sure thing.
Tessa Holcomb is with Domain Advisors, a domain brokerage. Tessa, when people are getting ready to hire a domain broker, what are some things they should do first?
Well, what they should do is definitely do their research and talk to more than one broker, because it's important to have a relationship with somebody that you are comfortable with and you like their style of brokering, because a lot of domain brokers handle their sales differently as far as publicity, social media, press releases, or actually picking up the phone and calling them. But something that's important is using resources that are out there. Like if you go to the ICA's website, internetcommerce.org, there are a resource area where you can see annotated agreements and also a code of conduct for brokers. And so you should look through that and ask any broker that you interview if they adhere to those.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, Tessa.
You're welcome.
Camila Sikowitz is the executive director of the Internet Commerce Association. Camila, tell me about this year's annual meeting.
This is our fourth official ICA member meeting. It is the biggest meeting to date. We've grown from about 35, 40 participants 4 or 5 years ago to about 200 this year. We are testing out a new venue, Park MGM in Las Vegas. So far, so good. I think the feedback about the hotel has been great. It's a much smaller hotel than Resorts World, where we were previously, which means we don't have to walk as far. The convention center is right here. Our meeting rooms are right here. Very convenient. It's also in the center of the Strip in Las Vegas, so people have a lot of options around the hotel. Yeah.
So there, right now, as we're recording this, there are guru tables going on where there's an expert at each table talking about different topics. I remember a couple of years ago, it seems like there weren't many people attending those guru table talks, but it seems like now they're very popular. It's packed in there.
Exactly. So obviously we're very intentional about our gurus, about selecting them, and are very grateful to them for wanting to do it, to share their experiences and talk about their businesses. But yeah, I just checked it out before and the tables are full. People are pulling up chairs. Some really, really good conversations happening. You know, this kind of came up spur of a moment at our second meeting. Somebody mentioned, we should talk about stuff. And then it just grew into something that is probably one of the favorite part of the meeting for a lot of people, the most interesting part of the meeting probably. So yeah, very much looking forward to the feedback after, but I think it's going pretty well.
It also seems like there are a lot of new faces here, people that I haven't seen in many years.
Yeah, we've had, I don't know the number, probably 20, 30 new members who might be here. Also, some people who took a little bit of a hiatus and are back at the meeting. So yeah, it's a really, really interesting crowd. It's also it's a great crowd. I personally really enjoy just talking to everybody, seeing everybody again. And yeah, and I think everybody else has the same sentiment where they just enjoy being around everybody who's here.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Brooke Hernandez has started ProBroker. She is a domain broker in the industry. What's your background with domain brokerage and how has that led you to today?
Well, I started actually 15 years ago, and I initially was with Domain Advisors and went to Uniregistry, went to SAW, gained all this experience from doing outbound leads as well as acquisitions, and just kind of felt it's time to start going out and doing my own thing and helping up my clients that I love to work with and work with the great people in the industry.
Do you typically do you represent domains that you're outbounding, or do you typically help companies acquire them?
So mainly focusing or more leaning towards acquisitions and helping companies in acquiring domains, but I am taking on clients who have more of that premium level domain name that I can do outbound and have a successful ending for my client.
So since you're doing mostly acquisitions, what would you say to domain investors if you reach out to them? What would you say that they should do, right? I mean, I know a lot of domain investors get contacted by brokers all the time. Is there a way they can know this isn't just some bottom fisher who's trying to get great deals, that sort of thing? Because we all get a lot of those emails. How can we decipher between those and a legitimate outreach from someone like you?
Well, one of the things I think is when we, as a broker, we know a lot of the domain investors and we know the kind of quality of domains they have. So I'm not going to be reaching out to someone that has a stellar domain and I have someone that has no budget for it. So one of the items is, as a broker, definitely going to be making sure my client understands what the budget is and what true value for these type of domains are. So if you get a lead for interest from me, know that it is a real buyer, a qualified buyer, not just someone that, is hoping maybe on a long shot trying to get it. I'm not here to waste anyone's time. Everyone in this industry has other things to do. So I'm going to just be straightforward and hopefully get a deal done.
All right. Thanks so much, Brooke.
Thank you.
Brady Anthony Brumfield is the head of growth and product for Unstoppable Domains. I know a lot of people here at the Internet Commerce Association are talking about Unstoppable. Tell me why a domain investor should be interested in looking at Unstoppable as their domain registrar.
Yeah, sure. So Unstoppable is now 15 months into our ICANN accreditation, and we've come a long way in building really all the tools that domainers need. We are a domainer-focused registrar, so our dashboard is data-rich, our bulk actions are comprehensive, lets you really seamlessly manage your domains. We're now also part of the Afrinic and CEDO fast transfer networks, which has been a long-standing request of people. And we just really are approachable and open for domainers. You'll see me on X, and I'm easy to find and hard to bother. So domainers love that they can harass me at all times and get new features and bugs reported. And of course, our pricing is very attractive and aggressive. So $5.99 Fridays up to 100 .coms. And then Domainer Club members can get $5.99 transfers up to 2,000 of those. So the discounts are pretty hard to beat. And then beyond that, of course, we've got a marketplace, LTO landers, make offer, self-brokerage, and seller storefronts, and really anything else you need to run a domain business. So putting together all the pieces.
So you mentioned this Domain Club and $5.99 transfers. How does one join that club?
Sure. So we have an application. It's open to select domainers. So there's a qualification process, and we do require KYC to get access to these discounts. We just need to be careful about who we're giving the discounts to. So that's the explanation of the KYC process. But you can find that on our transfers page.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Darpan Munjal is the CEO of Atom. You guys are getting ready to launch your domain name registrar. I guess it's technically been there for select uses right now, but you're getting ready to open it up more generally. When will that happen, and what should domain investors expect?
Yeah, that's something we're excited about. We'll be launching the public-facing registrar in about 2 weeks from now, coming up pretty shortly, and a lot of things planned with that. One thing that we're really excited about is what's called the Atom Edge program that we'll be launching for people who register more than 100 names through that registrar. So there's going to be a whole host of benefits that come with that. And I can talk through some of those benefits.
Yeah, one of them that's pretty unique is expired domain revenue sharing, but there were a couple others too, right?
Yeah, so we will share the revenue with the expiry stream. The commissions across the board will be reduced. So if you sell any of those names through our marketplace, you will save anywhere from 2.5% to 5% commission across the board, including Atom Pay. And then there is a lot of tools that we'll be adding on that will be available exclusively to that part of that program as well.
So to clarify, is it only for names that are at the Atom registrar that you get the discount?
That is correct. Anything that's in the registrar will qualify for those discounts.
And then you also announced a recent partnership with Alibaba. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so one of the big focus for us last year and this year is building out our distribution network. And we are partnering with any companies where we believe entrepreneurs are going to find names. And, China has been a market which is obviously large, but we haven't had many partners in that area. And this partnership with Alibaba allows us to list Atom inventory to several sites that are operated by Alibaba in the Chinese market. So this will give us access to Asian markets. So if people go to those websites and they look for those names, our names will show up for immediate purchase that will be handled through Alibaba.
All right. Thanks, Tarpon.
Thanks, Andrew.
I'm with Brian Harbin with Grit Brokerage. Brian, we're early in 2026. What's your general feeling about the mood out there? What's this year going to be like from a domain sales perspective?
Yeah, so definitely very confident going into 2026. We just came off our, best year in sales in 2025 and just saw a lot of great enthusiasm and excitement and, big sales across a lot of different extensions, obviously .com, .ai, .co, and .org. And, I think there's going to be a lot of momentum that carries into this year. I think one of the things that, I think is good for the industry as a whole this year is the new strings coming out. And I think that's going to inject a lot more excitement and enthusiasm and new players in the industry. One thing that I think just trying to keep an eye on, obviously there's a lot going on globally right now. And so there's always that trying to think ahead and see, okay, is there going to be any potential slowdown and where that's going to happen? And so just trying to keep a pulse on everything and just following all the trends. And yeah, definitely looking forward to a great 2026 and collaborating with a lot more folks.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Logan Flatt is a domain investor with Media Code. Logan, tell me, how was your 2025?
Well, it was my best year ever. I did 3 times as much in revenue as I did in 2024, which was an excellent year as well. I had some very good sales in alternative extensions like .xyz and .bet. I had humanityai.com was a big sale. Had super.xyz, which is the biggest sale I've had. That was almost 300,000. And then I had lonestar.bet, which was about 80,000, which was a surprise sale that happened, but it ended up being a great year and hoping 2026 will be even better.
How much did you pay for a Lone Star bet?
$7.98. Sold it for 80. It's about a 2-year hold.
Oh, well, 2 years, then that makes all the sense.
That was risky, but super.xyz was only $200 as well to buy that one. And that was almost 300,000. So great margins, if you will. So all in all, just all the buying and investing I did 2 or 3 years previous to 2025 paid off. So that was good.
Excellent. Well, we'll have Logan on a podcast here sometime in the next month or two to go in more depth on that. So thanks so much, Logan. Jeff Sass is with .art. Jeff, I saw something recently from Domain Academy about name.art. Tell me about this program.
Yeah, so name.art is really interesting. It's invite only now, but if you're a Domain Academy member, you can get in automatically. When you sign up for name.art, you get 1,000 coins. These are virtual coins that you can use to mint a token that represents an unregistered .art premium domain. The token life is 6 months. If that domain gets registered during that 6 months, you get paid a 10% commission. And the commission is not based on the sale price, it's on the tier price. So if that name is in our $10,000 tier, for example, and it's on sale at GoDaddy and someone registers it for $3,000, you still get paid the $1,000 commission. So when you have that token for a name, you can either sit and wait and hope that someone registers it, or you can use your Domain Academy skills, in that case, or domain investing skills and practice, and go out and try to find someone to register the domain. But it doesn't matter where they get it. They can get it at any registrar at any price. If you own the token when the name is registered, you get paid the commission.
Tell me about some success stories under this program.
So when we just launched it, this revised version of it, we rolled it out to our staff first because it's internal. It's kind of a benefit. And one of our employees on the marketing team made a $1,000 commission in about 2 weeks.
And so how do people get started with this?
So it's invite only. If you're a member of Domain Academy at GoDaddy, you can join. You can get an invite code to join. If you're interested and you're not a member of Domain Academy, reach out to me. And if you're interested, I'll get you an invite code.
All right. And that's that Jeff at
art.art. Jeff at art.art.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Thanks to everyone for taking a few minutes out from the show to chat with me. That's a wrap on this week's Domain Name Wire podcast. You can listen to all previous episodes at dnw.com/podcast or on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening.